Welcome to the Agency Insider podcast. Today we are joined by Schneider, founder and CEO of Trio SEO. Steven has made significant strides in the SEO world, particularly as the CEO of Trio SEO. Today, we are excited to dive into his journey, insights, and the future of SEO. Welcome to the podcast, Steven. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so you have been into the SEO game, I guess, since 2017?
Yeah.
Yes. And how has and I noticed you started your work building affiliate niche websites initially, right?
Yep.
So how has your approach to content creation evolved since you first started building affiliate niche websites?
Wow. Yeah. So I think that the biggest thing is just the level of quality that we've had to upgrade across the board. I mean, over time, Google is just getting better and better at cracking down on spam sites. And we all know that sometimes they get it wrong. And so I think that just over time, as you create more content, you have to really level up your game and just make sure there's way more checks and balances to succeed in SEO.
So were you making these affiliate niche websites for yourself or for the clients?
It's for myself. So I had two partners and we owned about 40 different sites. And at our peak, we were scaling to about 300 to 400 new articles per month. And yeah, we scaled it up to 7 figures. It was a pretty fun run.
So did you made an exit or these sites still exist?
No, we didn't exit. We got hit with a couple of black swan events, one of them being COVID and like spam updates, stuff like that. So that was kind of where we saw it was a good time to step away from the affiliate world. And then I kind of stepped away from that company as a whole. And then that's when I started Trio SEO with Connor Gillivan and Nathan Hirsch.
So when did you start Trio SEO?
About a year ago, coming up on our 1 year.
Okay. So what challenges did you face in the early stages of career, and how did these experience shaped up your approach for SEO today?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, at least from the experience side of Trio SEO, was the shift between owning all the sites and kind of being able to have full control over anything and just being agile, and now kind of switching to more of a client-facing role with agencies, and just there's way more brand guidelines and adherences with how we publish content with clients, making sure it fits within, what they want it to be deemed publishable. So, I mean, just kind of putting in better systems and more quality checks and checkpoints along the way. Because back in the day, it was very scalable, very easily.
So Trio SEO is more into the content part of the SEO, right?
Correct.
So what exactly does the Trio SEO do?
Yeah, so we focus on two things. It can either be strategy plus briefs, or we'll do like a full 100% hands-off content package, and that would be strategy plus writing or uploads and publishing and all the kind of on-page stuff. But it's strictly just content and really high quality, focused, high intent. So bottom of funnel, trying to get content that actually converts and focus on just that at scale.
Okay, so do you also, so this content is mainly for the client blog sites?
Correct. Yeah. So we do all of the work on behalf of clients and log into their site, and they own all the content at the end of the day. And it's on their site driving organic traffic back to their brand. Okay,
so how does the process works when a client comes to you and asks for content? So is there a initial brief which happens, or is there a direction you take based, because you mentioned both, so I'm sure you create content for different part of the funnels as well. So how does that initial interaction and initial discussion happens?
Yeah, so we always start with a discovery audit before the client signs, and that just kind of allows us to figure out where they stand. And then once they actually get onboarded, the onboarding process is just filled with a lot of information about learning about their brand, their ICP, the customers, like their goals, tones, etc. And we pretty much just do a deep dive from that side while also doing more keyword research. And then we kind of merge those two together and kind of figure out what topics and where they fall in that funnel. And then from there on out, we create a 90-day sprint, and that's going to be based on, say, they're doing 7 articles per month, so it'd be 21 overall. And then we meet with them and help prioritize the topics so that they fit with their goals. And then from there on out, it's just a matter of kind of, divide and conquer and keep the ball in motion. But yeah, we're very collaborative in the early stages so that the clients can see that we're on the right track and it's where they want to go. Right. And it's extremely bottom funnel, high intent, and we don't want to just drive meaningless traffic.
So when you do these content, do they, I mean, of course, content only will not generate traffic and rankings. So is there any other push you guys do, or do you ask clients to, basically what I'm saying is that if the website doesn't have an authority, no matter how much content I generate, it's not going to generate traffic.
Yeah, for sure. So that's kind of the benefit of doing the discovery audit first. We have backlink partners, but we don't offer that as a service. So we're very upfront with clients from the start just to make sure it's a good fit. Like we've denied a handful of clients just because they want to rank in a, say, finance niche and they're at DR0, and we just know that that's not going to work. So we know we're not going to just take people's money. We're business owners first and entrepreneurs who have had success with SEO. And so we know the long-term struggles of getting SEO to work well. And so for that reason, we want it to be a win-win. And so the discovery audit is not only for their benefit, but ours as well, to see, can we actually make this work? And if yes, then we'll move forward. But if not, we're just transparent and be like, hey, it's better if you guys go build backlinks for a couple of months, then come back to us and we can focus on content.
Yeah. Completely makes sense, because a lot of companies think content just from a sales perspective. Okay, we'll do 7 write-ups for you a month. I mean, if it doesn't get value, so that's where customer come back and say, I got the best writers, but I got no business, no sales. And that's where it comes.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, another important part too is we focus on just like really strong like site structure, and I think that that's one of the things that most people overlook too. Is just the like UX and CRO and internal linking and kind of the things that we at least have control over. So it is kind of like a two-way street. But yeah, to your point, like backlinks definitely move the needle at the end of the day. So
yes. And recently there have been a trend of digital PR, of course. So what digital PR, one angle is create a content which has lots of stats and everything. And when journalists Google it, they find it. So you got backlinks, and of course some buzz is created. So do you do those type of content as well?
If it makes sense for them, we'll definitely offer it. But I mean, just looking at like knowing statistic keywords, those are usually higher difficulty to go after. It really has to make sense with their domain authority and making sure that they can actually have a fighting chance to get that in the top 10. Because we don't do any outreach, it just really has to be like, do we think that there's a high probability of them ranking top 5 for this? And if not, then there's probably a better way to allocate resources.
Okay, makes sense. Now, can you share a success story where your content strategy significantly improved clients' organic traffic?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a couple of clients where, they've wanted to see the SEO benefit, and they know that it's a long-term investment. We have one client in the mergers and acquisition space who has just completely exploded with organic traffic and started getting leads through audits and, kind of referrals from that sense. And what we did in that approach is we just went after a traditional hub and spoke approach, going after mergers, acquisitions, exits, and kind of all the content within that space. And then to really hit it more bottom funnel, like I said, more into the like how to sell XYZ company, or, more of the nitty gritty stuff. And then just kind of work that into the client's offer and said, how can we meet the reader on that side of things? And over time, it's been working really well. And the surprising fact about that too is that they have like a DR7, and it's not really something that you would expect to see. So it was kind of a fun surprise from that sense. We knew that there were some opportunities just going after unique keywords, but the fact that they are kind of a growing authority in the space, I think really gave them a level up in that sense. So it's been fun to watch.
So when you produce content, again, what kind of so let's say you get a content, you got on a discovery call, you decide you want to create a BOFU content, like you mentioned now. How do you go about deciding the length of the content and everything? So is there a process which you have for that, which you can share with our listeners?
Yeah, so we look at the search intent first. I mean, obviously, if it's a quick, FAQ type of question, then it's not going to be a 3,000 word article. So it really just depends on what the topic is to begin with. And then we just build the outline based on what we see in the data and what we can look at in Ahrefs and other tools and see what makes it feel like it's optimized without it going too long. And we do a lot of just kind of like mental math, like if sections are 200 or 300 words and we don't want to add 20 of them, for example. I think it's just more about being realistic and what the reader is expecting and how we can meet them on that, because no one wants to read a 5,000 word article on something that can be answered in 500 words. So
right. So you mentioned you at one time managed 40 affiliate websites.
Yeah.
So I mean, because lot of times what happens is once you scale to a lot of websites, the biggest challenge becomes is the scaling the content. So what were the biggest challenges you faced in scaling content production? I'm sure they were across diverse niches, right?
Yep. Yeah, it was all
So,
across different niches.
so what were the challenges and how did you overcome those while producing? And first question is, sorry, how much content were you producing actually every month for those websites at that time?
There's about, I mean, anywhere from 300 to 400 total across all sites per month. So, I mean, give or take, it was anywhere from some sites, had 5 pieces of content, some had 10, maybe some had 20. It was kind of split up overall. But the biggest thing I think is just having a good system where everything communicates well and it's very efficient. And that's kind of where we were able to succeed so quickly with Trio SEO, is that I pretty much just took that existing system from the old company, copied it over. Like we work with Airtable, so having Airtable set up very effectively with Zapier and automations and all that sort of stuff, it just makes the whole entire process very routine and everyone knows their step in the process. And we also had a team of 30, kind of working on this thing. So it wasn't like it was just me and, 2 friends doing it. So, it takes an army for sure.
So you had 30 peoples before, or you have 30 peoples now?
Previously, when we were doing that much content. Yeah, I think right now our team is around coming up on 10.
Okay. So in these people, do you believe more in having an editor job, or do you believe in writer understanding and being more reliant on a writer?
With Trio SEO, we've been actually switching toward more full-time writers, which is where instead of working on a contract basis, we're trying to bring writers in and actually make them more ingrained in the culture, and they can have more of a buy-in to clients and they can actually learn the brands. It makes it a lot easier because then they have mastery over that. And so we found that it's good to have a couple full-time generalist writers and then maybe specialty writers, expert writers when technical niches come into play. But yeah, that's the bigger, it's also easier to manage. You're not working with 30 writers compared to, maybe 5 or 6. So that's kind of the how we operate that sense.
Okay. So more writers of you are based out of the US?
They're kind of all over. We don't have any US writers. We have some in the UK. We have some in India, Pakistan, Philippines, kind of like Eastern Europe, Western Europe. So I mean, it's definitely a global team from that front.
Okay. So the number one question or number one problem me being in India faces when people say we need native English writers. So do you get these questions? So how do you overcome that objection?
We just let the content speak for itself. We try not to, we don't, if people ask, like, we're not going to lie to them. We're very transparent with our clients, and that's what we kind of pride ourselves on. But if someone's reading an article and they're like, hey, who wrote this? We'll tell them. But usually, I mean, like, our team is good. We have everything's 100% human written. Everything's 100% human edited. Obviously, we use things like Grammarly to help us out, but we give our team a lot of access to tools and resources that allow them to succeed. So at the end of the day, I mean, if the content performs well and it reads well, being nitpicky over stuff like that usually means that the client is just nitpicky in general, and SEO is not a good front for them, because if you're kind of getting hung up on the nuances of stuff like that, it holds you back, I would say. So, you kind of have to let the results speak for themselves. And if it works, it works. And if it is still tied to the brand and the tone and all that sort of stuff, then, you kind of have to let it do its job.
Right. So do you cover all niches, or do you specialize in certain niches only?
So we prefer to work with like B2B SaaS products, specifically in like the e-commerce space, e-commerce or Amazon. We have a couple clients that are in like the Amazon tools space for sellers, but we're not closed off to any niches, so to speak. It just really depends on, one, if there's opportunity, and two, do we need to hire an expert writer? Like we had just an audit this morning for a niche that is far beyond me, very technical. And I just knew immediately, I was like, this is something we like cannot not have a writer on. So we have to go and kind of scout someone in that sense.
Right. And do you believe also in the importance of refreshing the content?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We do updates about every 6 months, depending on if either the client had content on the site before us that wasn't performing well, or if, like, say that we did an article and it's a little bit more challenging to rank for, we'll revisit it and just kind of give some fresh content to it and kind of touch it up just so that Google kind of sees it as a kind of up-to-date resource. Yeah, updates definitely move the needle, and we kind of take that into consideration.
Can you walk us briefly through your process for identifying and updating outdated articles?
Yeah, so the biggest thing is just taking a look at what the expected value of it should be and where it currently sits. If something's ranking top 3 or it's ranking first, like I'm not going to touch that article. But if it's ranking maybe 9th, or if it's ranking 12th, or maybe 15 or 20, then that's definitely kind of showing me signs that, hey, this missed the mark for some reason. Obviously, there's things like backlinks and difficulty that come into consideration, but just kind of taking a look A versus B at the content. Are there any gaps in this content? How can we spruce it up, and how can we make it better than the top ranking pieces?
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. Now, of course, content creation can be time consuming. What productivity hacks have you discovered that help you and your team maintain high quality output without sacrificing quality?
So the biggest thing is really just breaking up each stage of the process into almost like an assembly line where everyone knows their job and they can become really, really specialized in that task. And then over time, as mastery develops, you just become faster and more efficient at it. So something that might take, 2 hours, we'll break it up into 3 tasks. So it's actually easier to divide and conquer.
Okay. All right. Let's talk a little bit about the future of SEO, of course, with and everything. So it becomes important. I mean, none of my podcast finishes without AI and SEO. So I have to bring it in. So AI is, of course, rapidly changing the content landscape. So how is Trio SEO adapting its services to incorporate AI while maintaining quality and originality?
So we don't do any AI content. We're still against AI from the sense that we don't want to jeopardize our clients' brands. But we look at AI as a tool. So, we use things like Grammarly, which has AI functions in it. We look at ChatGPT for like questions or how we can improve brand briefs and tone. But when it comes to the content itself that we're publishing, we're not going to put it on the site. So that's really just comes down to trying to incorporate more into our tool stack and our tech stack, instead of it becoming like a reliant dependency in the process.
Okay, so after the Google core update in March, did your business see an uptake or a downtick? Because a lot of affiliate websites, I mean, a lot of people lost hope in SEO kind of. So how was the business after that?
Yeah, so thankfully we don't have any affiliate websites. That was just from the old company years ago, but all of our clients saw an uptick in traffic, which was great to see. I think that kind of speaks to the quality that we're putting out there and just kind of like the core basics of what we're following through on. But yeah, it's always a little nerve wracking. You never know what's going to happen during a Google update.
Right. So given the constant evolution of SEO, what strategies do you believe will be critical for businesses to focus for the next 2-3 years?
I think it's just becoming better at the basics. I think that people try to always look for the new hack or try to figure out ways to find shortcuts when really SEO is based on mastery of the fundamentals. I still think that backlinks and things like PR are going to be critical, just as Google tries to figure out, who's who and getting votes of confidences. But when it comes down to it, I think at the end of the day, you really can't reinvent the wheel for SEO. And so that really just comes down to who can do the same thing over and over again and be patient enough to see the results.
Right. And given the constant evolution of strategy SEO, what strategies do you believe will be critical for business to focus in next 2-3 years?
I'd say podcasting is great. I'd say, creating networks and partnerships, they also result in backlinks. And then I would say site structure is great. People are always going to be happy with a site that is fast and works well on mobile. And just considering the user experience of all content, like if the site feels clunky and feels like it's outdated, it's really going to be a turn off to people. So how can you bring your brand into the future and allow people to feel and interact with it like it should be?
Okay, and when you are when you are doing content for blog or clients, so what's the ideal frequency for publishing a blog content?
As much as possible.
I mean, it should be.
Yeah.
I know it's
So
not one rule for all, but still.
yeah, so our minimum is 7 per month. We found that that's kind of a good, if you're going to look at content over a long-term time horizon, that's kind of a sweet spot. We will do lower packages for custom if needed, but we don't recommend going below 5. I think that if you go below 5, you really have to extend your time horizon and just kind of think long term. But I think as soon as the content's ready, just publish it. Don't try and schedule it. Don't try and delay it. And also don't try and make it perfect. There's people who have redlined a lot of documents from internally on our side and clients who have to have the perfect product before it's uploaded. You can't have every comma perfectly placed or every apostrophe perfectly placed. It's just not realistic. So yeah, get the content, publish it, see how it reacts with Google, and then kind of update from there.
Right. Now, so how do you form a content strategy for a business?
So we take a look at just kind of their ICP and all the kind of like psychology metrics that I've just recently mentioned. But I think when it comes down to it, we look at traditional hub and spoke approach and siloing content into clusters. It just always works well, especially when you have great internal linking on the site. And so going after categories and then seeing if there's any subcategories or secondary keywords within that. And then just making sure that everything fits well. So if you're publishing content, don't do sporadic content. Make sure there's a cohesive strategy to it, and then kind of set out down that path.
So do you believe in topical SEO?
I do. I think that it's essential. I think that it's more about where the goals are aligned with clients. Some clients come to us and they say, hey, we already have a lot of bottom of funnel content and we just want to spread awareness. And so from that sense, they're like, we're almost dedicating time and resources to building topical authority. So I think it really just depends on where the business is at and where they want to streamline their organic traffic. And then from there, it kind of depends on where they see themselves 5+ years in the future.
You spoke a couple of times about hub and spoke strategy. Of course, for our listeners, if you can define a little more what exactly what you mean when you say hub and spoke strategy.
Yeah, so the hub and spoke strategy is pretty much a siloed or a clustered way to go about your content. So you'd have pillar piece or one ultimate topic. Say if it's on-page SEO would be the ultimate guide on on-page SEO, and then obviously on-page is broken down into internal linking or images or all the kind of basic fundamentals of that category, and then you would write sequential articles covering the topics in that and then link them all together. So it's more about how can you cover micro clusters of categories in great detail and then make sure that they're all interwoven and connected, and then kind of move to the next one. So over time, your site becomes an authority in the space and you actually become an expert on each topic, and Google sees that, and then you rank better.
So just for the listener understanding, the first piece of content, let's say on-page SEO, this is the longer one, right?
Correct, yeah.
And then you keep on generating the related content, for example, for internal linking or images. So does this content all get published same time or over a period of time?
Well, since we always try to focus on bottom of funnel content first, it's hard to do all of the content at once because some topics may be top of funnel, some may be mid. So it really just ensures that you're not leaning too far out of the hub, I would say. So,
Okay.
Go after the bottom funnel and work backwards. So, it is best to publish that ultimate guide first, but if the ultimate guide is top of funnel, then it's probably not the best use of resources. So as long as you're not doing content on page and then you're going to off page and you're doing one on backlinks, from that sense, it feels a little bit more scattered. So.
Okay. So it's like create a longer page on page, provided it's the bottom of the funnel, not top of the funnel, and then go on creating the content which is close to it.
Correct.
And then,
yeah.
Of course, doing internal linking amongst them. Right?
Of course, yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, so how is strategy integrated into blog writing to attract leads? I know you said for that merger and acquisition client, you plugged something for the lead, but how exactly do you do it for all the blog writing pieces you do, or for some, and how is the strategy integrated?
So yeah, we really work on nurture sequences and lead magnets and making sure that there is a point of entry for the client to at least capture any traffic and kind of bring those visitors into their internal CMS. And so, for example, if you just have a blog article, it might be pretty difficult just to convert them to a high-paying service straight from that blog. But if you can get them into a newsletter and nurture them over the next couple of weeks through random emails, you kind of buy them into the brand and they feel more comfortable. So instead of us directing leads straight to the source of pain, we might direct them to a newsletter or a download or a lead magnet. And so from that sense, it's more about how do we at least bring in the customers and then pass the baton over to the sales team or the VP or whatever the CMO is working on. And then they can kind of nurture them further on and convert them eventually.
So do you follow some of these?
Yeah, so we have a bunch of SOPs. We have an SOP lead magnet. We have a couple more in the.
Can you show our listeners, because I think your website has very nicely laid out all of this.
Oh yeah.
So if you share your screen, right?
Yeah, so you can see here, like we have this free SEO SOP toolkit.
How do we reach to this page?
Pretty sure you can just Google SEO.
No,
SOP.
what I meant when a user lands on your website. So this is a pop-up, or how does this come up?
This is an actual page on the website.
Okay.
So this is Trio SEO / SOPs, and this ranks for the for SEO SOPs. So you can see here, like if I'm looking for SEO SOPs, we're ranked right here. So download our free SEO, toolkit, and then from here we would be able to kind of get people into this lead. Since this is a form, we could also include this as a pop-up or an embedded form with any of the other content on our site. And then from here on out, this is now going to send them an email sequence where they can download our SOPs, and then also works them into a multi-sequence email where they're getting more up-to-dates about the business, more case studies, all that sort of stuff.
Okay, this is very interesting. So just because most of our audience is agency owners, so that is why I said that having a lead magnet is something which every agency should have on their website. So yes. And so when you do blogs also, do you create those lead magnets there?
Yeah, so the lead magnets are more of like exit intent pop-ups. We try not to be intrusive, but yeah, we do it for just joining our newsletter in general. We have one for the SOPs like you saw. We also have like a SEO budget calculator that we've built. Like digital assets work great too. That's more of like a estimate your monthly cost and kind of get a free audit as a result. So, I mean, we have a bunch of different ways to funnel leads into our CMS. And then from there on out, we have email sequences set up.
And does this lead funnels works well for you?
Yeah, it's just great to kind of build that trust in that sense. We've had, people that don't convert immediately to an audit, but, over a month-long period, they'll actually sign up for an audit just based on being ingrained in the newsletter. So it's just more about how do you build trust in your brand? And then over time, as the trust is built, people will initially click. Or the other thing too is that they might not be ready to sign up today. Maybe they don't need SEO services tomorrow, but as a result of them being in your nurture sequence, next month they might need it randomly. As a result of you
brand
kind of
recall
being,
is there.
Exactly, brand recall's there. If you're in their inbox every single week, you're top of mind for them. So it's just about how do you stay connected with your ideal customer so that when the time comes, they know that you're the go-to.
Yeah, that's actually a very good advice, because right now what happens is all the agencies, they think, okay, all we should do is pump out 3,000 words, 3 write-ups every week, and we'll get traffic and we'll get, because what Google now also says, it's not about the traffic, it's about what happens once the customer or a visitor lands on your page. So that is also very important, and you need to have the intent-based content as well.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Now, so we talked about how good we can do and how well we can do all this content. Now, what are some of the biggest article writing mistakes or producing content mistake which you often see business owners doing, or webmasters?
Yeah, so there's 2 that I tried and true will live by until the day I die. So the first one is not answering the search intent quickly and concisely. So my favorite example is there's nothing worse than looking up a recipe article and being bombarded by 1,000 words of content about, cooking and going to the grocery store and getting the recipe. It's like, I just want the recipe. Just give me the recipe. So the first one is like at all of our blogs, we always start with an introduction, which is standard. And then we always go into a TLDR, a too long didn't read summary. And that's just going to be a quick snippet to build trust. And so if it's like a how-to guide, we'll give just the answer right there. And then obviously we'll give it a more in-depth answer below, which could be 500 plus words. The first thing is just making sure that when people go to your site for an answer or for information, give them the answer. They might leave within seconds, but a majority of the people will want to learn more. But if you're just burying the answer in content, then they feel like they didn't get what they came there for. So the first thing is just building trust. The second thing is stacked onto that, which is your EAT metrics, I would say, your experience, your authoritativeness, the trustworthiness, and just kind of all the things that Google has been kind of screaming since day one is, do you feel like this is an authoritative figure? Do you have an author bio? Does your author bio a real person? Like ours, I link to my LinkedIn and I let people know that, hey, I actually am a real person. I'm not like a bot or AI.
Right.
And just kind of making sure that it feels good. Like I said, I feel like that's overlooked where people just are focused on content and traffic, when really, if that traffic doesn't have a good experience, the people aren't going to trust you. And sales is based on trust at the end of the day. So
Right.
I think UX and how people engage with that content, if you just spend a little bit extra time on that, like you'll see a massive improvement overall.
Okay. Okay. Now, since you mentioned author bio and everything, obviously the next question would be: how much do you believe in EEAT, and do you follow that process while writing?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's if Google tells you it's important, why would you not focus on it? It's kind of my like argument to that.
I mean, lately after Google leaks, we do not tend to trust that much because
True.
after the Google, right?
But I think that at its core, you have to remember that you're writing content for actual humans at the end of the day. And if your
Right.
EEAT is still based on the principles of showcasing your authority, trying to build trust on page, trying to display that you are an expert in the space, like that's never going to be not a good use of your time. So especially with how templatized websites are nowadays, like if you have a good blog layout like ours, then all of that is just replicated across your site. So it's a very easy one-time task to invest in a good design, and then from there on out, it displays across the board.
Right. So on your website or on your business, so which is the, I mean, in terms of getting leads, which is the biggest channel? Is it the organic, or I know you are active on LinkedIn as well. So which channel works for you right now? And has those channels changed in last few months?
Yeah, it's actually direct, like either through just mentioning it on LinkedIn, or like my partners, Connor and Nathan, they have a pretty big network outside of LinkedIn and just like a big network in general from their companies. So usually it's word of mouth through that sense.
Okay.
The website itself, Trio SEO, is still growing. Like I said, we've only been around for a year and we have a DR 30. And so like it's still getting there, but from a sense of like natural organic leads, like we know it's going to be a multi-year long investment. We're not quite there from an organic sense, but it's kind of all a multi, kind of facet strategy amongst on everything. But
Right.
yeah, biggest one is definitely direct or word of mouth right now.
So do you work with agencies as well?
Yeah. Yeah, so we work with, right now we have a partner right now who's actually a client of ours. They are web design. So we add content to their site, and then we also leverage them in time of need for if our clients need web design work, or if they need SEO work. So yeah, we definitely try and look for partners and kind of good relationships. We're also exploring things with like PPC agencies right now. We also offer white label services to agencies. So we're always open to the conversation and kind of seeing how we can make it a win-win.
Okay. Okay. Now, what is the best piece of advice for anyone considering SEO you would give? I mean, in today's after Google update. So
yeah, the biggest thing I would say is focus on podcasting. If you are comfortable doing that and have a network to do so, it's the best way to build backlinks, build relationships. You get content out of it. It's like this win-win-win scenario. The other thing I would say is be patient. Like if you are looking at SEO and expecting it to be a 30-day quick win game, you're wrong. It's just not like that. You have to be able to think in months and years, not in days and weeks. And so those are definitely the two biggest things I would say.
And you mentioned you use a lot of tools earlier. So what are some of your favorite tools with you and your team, which you use every day?
Yeah, we use Airtable for everything. It's like our main base. For those that aren't familiar, it's kind of similar to Notion. We use Slack every day. I use Ahrefs. I live in Ahrefs. Like Google Search Console, Google Analytics, even though GA4 is not the best, but that's kind of a whole different conversation. yeah, I mean, it's the basics. I mean, there's really no reason to, kind of steer away and try to figure out what's new.
Okay, so the content which you write or produce, do you do some checks with the AI? So do you use any AI tools to check the AI content generation?
Yeah, we use originality.ai, which is it checks for AI, it checks for plagiarism. It also does kind of an originality score just to see like how off base it is and kind of seeing like the originality of it, that the name says.
Okay. Now, of course, the SEO industry is highly competitive, and somebody starting agency in last 1 year are very less heard of. I mean, keeping today's scenario. So how do you maintain a strong company culture and ensure that your team stays motivated and ahead of the curve?
We really focus on just having quality team meetings that are built on getting to know each other rather than making it more of a employee relationship. Yeah, I think that it's one of those things where you can feel like you know people, and like in our Slack channel, we have a channel for sharing pictures and like what are we doing on the weekends, and kind of like letting it build into more of a friendship relationship than just a I'm doing a job relationship. So I think as long as we can continue to treat people with respect and be friendly with them and ask the same in return, you can build a pretty strong culture, and people buy into the company and they buy into the vision, and that's really important for us as we're kind of on our mission.
Okay, and any must-read books or website recommendations?
Let's see here. I'm a pretty big fan of Ahrefs blog. It's probably not a very common answer, but I think that Ahrefs just has great content. If I'm ever I'm trying to learn more about local SEO right now. Like, I think that that's going to be a good opportunity in the next couple of years if people can really double down on local SEO. So I'm just trying to learn as much as I can about that. And like Nathan Gosh is also good. There's just so many good people out there. I stick to LinkedIn a lot for a lot of my like up-to-date news stuff and following, agency owners and SEO people and founders in the space that are kind of like always on the button when it comes to news and trends.
Okay, and are you a book reader or no?
Yeah, I actually just read this book I like. It's called The Value of SEO by Andrew
Okay.
Holland. Have you read this one?
No, I just took a interview of Peter who wrote product-based SEO, which is a very
Oh,
good book.
okay.
Yeah, and I was with Nathan Ghosh also, who wrote the book in the SEO. So those two books are also highly rated. I am yet to go through this book because I try to get some of the authors of the books also on the show. That helps.
Yeah. Yeah, this one's good. This is actually Andrew is someone I connected with on LinkedIn. And this book is all about, it's pretty much a compilation of his LinkedIn posts. Like, so it's very quick, easy to read, but really high impact content. So it's kind of like the best bang for your buck is kind of how I looked at it.
So I think it's available on Amazon.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'll put for my listeners the link in the comment section below. All right. So thank you so much, Stephen, for sharing your insights and experience with us today. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. Where can our listeners find you online and learn more about your work?
Yeah, I'm really active on LinkedIn. I post daily. You can find me, just look up Trio SEO, TRIO SEO. You can also just Google my name. I'm pretty active, elsewhere, but yeah, LinkedIn's the best spot. Yeah, I think that that's kind of where I hang out most. But yeah, you can also go to the website and, reach me there too.
Okay. And thank you to our listeners for tuning into the Agency Insider podcast. Be sure to check Stephen's work and, of course, connect with him on the LinkedIn. I've seen some of the posts are really quite valuable and worth learning from. And stay tuned for our next episode. Until next time. Thank you.